Hello everyone, I'm on a journey to Scarborough today, and as usual on these journeys I think of things that people have told me, first-hand accounts of strangeness on these very roads. And this road here, what we're driving along now, this is the road, we're just on Bempton Lane and we're just going down towards Buckton, or the village of Buckton. But there's a crossing here. A lady had been babysitting for her daughter, and late in the evening they'd come home and she's driving back home to her husband in Caton. And as she's driving down this road late at night, because as I say, her daughter and her husband had had a night out, she approaches this crossing here that we're coming to. And I'm deliberately going slow for you guys. A blue sphere of light passed over the bonnet of her car. Instant fear. And we're in the village of Buckton now. Instant fear took over this lady. It just consumed her. She slowed the car right down. I believe she stopped and she considered ringing her husband up, who was obviously in Caton, to come and escort her home. She was going to follow him, but then thought about the time it would take for him to get here, and then obviously the time to drive back. And she's probably more vulnerable sat here, the way she was feeling, than actually driving on home. So she continued on up this road and made her way back home. And but just one strange story that's probably took no more than a few minutes to retell. Blue sphere of light late at night. I'm gonna get the exact date when I get home, but a blue sphere of light that's been seen late at night, low down, passing over the front of a car. No electrical disturbance to the car, just an instant feeling of fear. What's that telling us? And how many more things, are we going to call them apparitions? I don't know what we would call them, but how many more objects of high strangeness are actually in and around these areas? I mean, there's the old RAF base over to my right. There's Buckton Hall there. Interesting story about Buckton Hall. Not necessarily paranormal, but in the cellars of Buckton Hall, and I found this in an archive, at high tides in the winter time, you can hear the waves crashing as though they're crashing against the walls of the cellar. And an elderly lady told me when I started fishing around for information that her father used to be the groundsman, the gardener at Buckton Hall. And she remembered as a little girl, and there's Buckton Hall, she remembers as a little girl going into the cellar, going through a door, down a passageway and out through caves to the shoreline at the bottom of Buckton Cliffs. Incredible when people say that these passageways don't exist. I've no reason to believe this lady was telling me anything but the truth. But to jump back to the blue sphere, it caused instant fear. And we'll leave it at that. Thank you. Hello again. We're just coming out of Filey now, on way back to Bridlington, but I just think it's worth sharing this account with you from 2009. And a guy came to my home to tell me all about this. A man called Barry Lyles. He came with his wife, and then we went back and retraced what happened in 2009. We drove to the area, and he'd come to Hunmanby and Muston on holidays. Something he'd done, I don't know, since his children were little. I think with the sounds of it, they'd all left home and he'd just come with his wife. But on this evening, they were staying at a campsite, I think, just on outskirts of Hunmanby. And if we just put camera that way, on the evening of the night that it happened in 2009, and I believe it was September, it could have been a little bit earlier, but on that evening, they got a taxi, went to Filey for a meal, had a few beers in Filey, and then got a taxi back to their campsite. And if we look forward now, I know we're following a wagon here, but we're going to be turning up the road to Muston shortly, and we shall see that on the right hand side of the road. So the taxi's coming up along this road. The time would have been between, I would have thought, 9:30 and 10:30 at night. Ambulance coming, so I'll have to go extra slow. And we turn here to go to this location. Everything's fine as they're driving along this road. No problem at all. It's just been a good evening. Can't really do much behind this. So as you can see, our little bit of filming has come to a stop as we follow a tractor and trailer. So there's a bit of unexplained phenomena, because this tractor looks like it's come from 1600s. But there you go. And I don't know, what's it doing? It's coughing a load of water out. We might cut this out of the little bit of film. We might not, we shall see. So everything's going fine as they're approaching the village, until they get to about here, opposite this public house here. And all of a sudden, the taxi driver and Barry say, "Can you see that?" And unbelievably, just here, moving along the tree line, Barry sees at first what he thought was a huge white owl moving along the tree lines, which is odd in itself. And then he goes on to describe seeing what looked like the hull of a ship, a huge vessel. He could just see the white cream hull of it with lights at either end, and it looked like rippling plastic. And it caught in the courtyard of this public house here. So if we look there, it caught in the courtyard of the public house, and they must have some holiday flats or Airbnbs behind there, and it was all lit up, and he could see this thing. And I asked Barry how close or how low it was in the sky, and he said you could have touched it with a barge pole. I know that's just a saying, but basically this thing was low, and it just sailed away into the sky. He said it looked like the hull of a huge ship. Couldn't see above, he couldn't see what was above, but it really baffled him when he'd seen this. Also his wife saw it. The other factor is that the taxi driver was frightened to death, absolutely terrified by what she'd seen. I mean, I think Barry's exact words were, "It's indelible in my mind what I saw. I'll never forget it." He got this awe-inspiring vision or sighting. The taxi driver saw it and felt extreme fear after seeing it. So it just shows there's mixed emotions seeing these things. So 2009, at the height of what we've called the Wilsthorpe incident, Barry Lyles sees a huge ship. And I do believe that someone outside of the public house saw it as well, because Barry went and did a bit of checking afterwards. So we'll end that there. An interesting sighting. And don't forget, if you like what we're doing, please press the like and subscribe. More to come. Thank you very much, Paul Sinclair for Truth Proof. Thank you.